Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the last session of the Train the Trainers program. Today, we're going to speak about the multi-tier support system, and I'll directly give the word to Juanjo del Hierro.
Thank you. Today we have shorter session than usual. That I guess would not be a problem, and is going to be focused on the explaining what we intend to organize, coordinate an important part of activities within the Fiverr community, like it's going to be the support to different organizations that may approach us, either the digital innovation hubs that wish to join as you have already joined the community, or companies, organizations that wish to create their data spaces relying on I4Trust building blocks. So, and the goal of this session is precisely trying to explain a bit what are the basis for organizing that kind of activities, support activities. So let me share my screen with the presentation that I have prepared for that purpose. Hold on one second. I hope you will be seeing my screen. I will stop the camera because I think it's not necessary. And if someone can confirm,
Yes, we can see your
my
screen.
And now I shall place the PowerPoint presentation mode if it allows me. Yeah, okay. Now. First remark, perhaps before starting the presentation, we are going to describe here a bit the basic ideas and concepts around multi-tier support that we want to bring in practice. But of course, this intends to be a process where we will be also learning by doing, and there might be aspects within the process that we are going to describe that might get fine-tuned over time based on experience. I will comment some aspects that actually are still a bit under definition, but how also we envision they would evolve. Well, we believe, and this is a cornerstone, a key message I want to convey as part of this presentation, is that adequate support is truly essential to create trust on our community, and is going to be a key driver of growth in terms of members of our community. That's what our experience dictates. If you are creating a community, but people approaching joining that community do not get their questions answered, or they get bad quality answers, they will probably give up and will never return. So this question about bringing the right level of support is going to be fundamental, and is part of the kind of activities where digital innovation hubs are going to play a key role. In the right side of this slide, you have a description of what is the typical marketing communication funnel, where we explain that what is the journey of all those target audiences that we are um, dealing with. And yes, we will, of course, through the open calls, through a number of dissemination activities, ambassador programs, stuff like that, raise the awareness. We will bring different organizations through that channel so that they move from pure awareness to interest and start considering, and until they really, let's say, get converted and become part of the community. And in all this process, that is the essence message I want to bring. Really accompanying this journey with the right level of support is going to be key. Otherwise, as I mentioned, people will give up, and not only that, we risk that they may bring not the best positive message about us. So therefore, is something we have to pay attention. On the other hand, as I said, is a very great opportunity, because if you come with good responses, if you come with quick responses as well, and showing you take care, there is not so many such powerful tools to really engage people. And the kind of support we are going to provide is going to be not just technical, but also non-technical support. So if we talk about technical support, of course, there might be people willing to get more information, how they can create data spaces where they can join as participants. There might be also organizations willing to set up data spaces using IFO Trust building blocks, and they may need advice how to deal with the technicalities around such creation of data spaces. But there might be non-technical questions that might be coming from related to how I can really create value for my business out of sharing data through data spaces created with IFO Trust, or aspects that again has to do with questions that those organizations that may want to set up a data space may be coming with, like okay, how can governance be established, what kind of legal frameworks I may need to put in place, and so on and so forth. And those questions may come from different kind of audiences, and we want all of them to become sooner or later members of our communities. There might be organizations willing to operate and govern I4 Trust data spaces in particular sectors or connected to particular communities of companies, and actually reinforcing those communities around this vision of data spaces. There might be just organizations, including particularly our focus would be SMEs or slightly bigger companies that may want to participate in IFO Trust data spaces. Of course, any of these kind of organizations willing to apply to the open calls we have in place. And then and there might be also digital innovation hubs, which may discover that, or they may have reached the point where they say, okay, I want to position my organization in the area of data spaces. I want to be able to protagonize these to be a protagonist of this the data revolution that that has to do with creation of data spaces across Europe. What I can do, what I need to do, and also engaging my local stakeholders and all that. So questions coming from all these audiences, and a great opportunity to engage them and retain them later on also as member of the community, and even hopefully also transform them in true advocates of what is the I4Trust community. And let's be clear, I share Fiverr Foundation alone. We are not enough to handle the scale of the community we end up building. So we definitely need the help of the DIHs like you, who decide to join the I4Trust community, the concrete working group of digital innovation hubs, and we need you to really be able to handle the growth that we not only aim at, but also foreseen. And this shouldn't be a problem or a burden. As I said, I think it's an opportunity for you to connect to companies, to engage with them, and make overall I4Trust an instrument for materialize your mission and your vision as digital innovation hub. Okay, I'm sorry. For this, of course, we need to somehow organize in a way, because otherwise we may enter into a bit of a chaos. And for this, we would like to set up properly, not too much, filling with bureaucracy, but truly being agile, but still be able to structure the different processes and, well, following best practices of any kind of multi-tier support. We have defined, and we are bringing here as a proposal, a multi-tier support system. So we will go through the different tiers of this model, and trying to give a little bit details about what is expected and who should be doing what, and what will be overall the process in place. For those that are familiar with what might be any sort of help desk service, what I'm going to explain today is not rocket science. We do not intend to do something different than what best practices implement. And but yeah, let's go and try to document, describe what the processes should be. There are multiple tiers 0, 1, 2, 3. And in the next slides, we will cover each of them with more detail. Within tier 0, this is what we referred as the self-help tier. Essentially, is the entry level where the different organizations that are approaching the I4Trust community will start with. And here, what we are essentially asking all the organizations that approach us for the first time, willing to get answers to their question, is to somehow self-help by means of retrieving the necessary support information that we will make available in the different I4Trust community websites, and also other kind of technical sources. I will elaborate a bit more about that later on. So on one side, we have the I4Trust.org website. We will we have there a number of resources, spaces that we will ask everyone who approach us to first take a look. This is something that should be well described at the forefront of the I4Trust help desk space, giving the links to all the resources that are available. Um, of course, the own I4Trust help desk space will become sort of a forum of questions and answers. And this will be one of the first questions we will ask people to take a look, uh, whether they can may first take a look and check whether their question was already answered. Um, for this, we need to discuss this a little bit more, but perhaps what we can bring is direct public access to the Jira system that we will bring into place. I will elaborate on that further. Um, and also talking about very concrete technical questions, one of the sources for this self-help by the different organizations will be Stack Overflow. Stack Overflow is, some of you probably already know, is a bit like the source of truth for many developers out there. Yeah, from the fireware side, long time ago, we made a bet to have visibility within that community. And actually, there is already a body of knowledge developed through answers to different questions that have been formulated into that space. And we shall take advantage of that when we are tackling response to questions that may affect concretely fireware components. But of course, after asking the users to first check all these sources, both or technical and not technical nature, they may still have their questions unanswered, and therefore they will be invited to formulate it in the official I4Trust help desk space, and that is also part of this activity because they will be the ones that responsible of creating those questions in the I4Trust help desk space. I guess you already are familiar with that space because some of you have already made formulated questions over there. Is a space at the beginning was not configured this way, but we decided to make it a little bit more strict in terms of what are the contents that can be published within this this space, sorry, of the I4Trust community. And the kind of contents are precisely questions being formulated by those who join the I4Trust community and with interest in I4Trust and its technologies. Three kind of questions are the ones that we are, for the time being, we have configured this space to allow. Questions that are more general, questions that are of more technical nature, and questions that are more of business nature. And well, as you know, by selecting one of them, a form is open that allows the end user to submit their particular questions that can be tagged, for which a title has to be provided, but a longer elaborated description can also be attached. These will be questions that then become visible to all the organizations that are bringing support, um, which are on one side you as Digital Innovation Hubs and ourselves, the I4Trust core partners. And well, whenever a question is placed on that space is where tier one gets into place. The idea is that we didn't want to make the assignment of questions to particular organizations something hierarchical in the decision. This could have been an option, but we thought that the kind of support process we had to put in place may benefit from the experience we have gained in similar activities around the fiber technology. And there we have found that the idea of running the resolution of request in a collaborative manner is something feasible and worthwhile when we have organizations engaged in the support. So essentially, the idea is those questions will be there, and what we would encourage digital innovation hubs that are participating in the DIH working group is that they take each of these questions and try to answer them. This is an opportunity, as I mentioned before, for a particular digital innovation hub to connect with that given organization that is formulating the question. There might be several DIHs that may wish to participate in giving the answer, and in general, it's a bit up to the particular DIH, but I think it's not a bad idea. That's somehow part of the design. Given DIH may allocate people at this tier one, managing their requests according to defined support scripts, essentially doing things like checking whether that particular question that is being formulated has already been answered, and therefore it can be simply responded by means of pointing and bringing the link to the particular question and the fact that is being published on the website, or perhaps bringing the link to the particular question that someone had already submitted to the I4Trust help desk space. I forgot to mention in the previous slide, each question that is created in this I4Trust help desk has a URL, a unique identifier, a URL assigned to that question, and this is something you can handle later on. So therefore, for instance, people who is working in tier one bringing support, if they find that the question that is being formulated is a question that has been already answered within the I4Trust help desk space time ago, then they can simply go and find the corresponding URL and give that as an answer, so that then the user can click on that and go through the conversation that took place at that time and be able to solve it. Very important, and this connects to what is going to be the next slide. The idea is to associate conversations around questions with tickets in Jira. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Jira system. Jira is a powerful tool by Atlassian that is being used for managing many kind of processes, but in particularly it has been widely used for travel ticketing and giving response and managing and handling questions and answers is in a sense a travel ticketing system. So the idea is that every time a question is formulated, a Jira ticket has to be created, and then through that Jira ticket, we will be able to follow up through the different stages of that question being answered. It could happen that someone at a given organization submit a request, but nobody self-assign that question to answer it. If that happens, we will be paying attention from I4Trust core partners, Firewall Foundation, iShare Foundation funding box to make sure that it gets assigned, and perhaps we may come to some of you with a proposal for you to take care of that question, or we may take this ourselves. SMEs will be able to provide their feedback to how they feel their question has been solved, and there are mechanisms you will see in the I4Trust help desk space associated to questions that you can use for that purpose. You can add reactions to questions. If you take a look, of course, the people that is managing requests at tier 1 may decide, okay, I have taken this question on board, self-assigned to my DIH, but me, the person who took this in the first place within the DIH, may not have the, let's say, the right knowledge to answer this. Therefore, I forward this to tier 2. The way to forward that to tier 2 within your own DIH is precisely leveraging on Jira. So let's take a look on Jira first of all on the slides, but then I will go to a little bit to the system to explain this a little bit. There will be a screens. This is a bit one of the main screens you will be able to see in Jira. You will have users created in Jira. I will come to this later, so don't worry about that. You will be able to list existing issues and find all the details associated to a given ticket. Typically, the title of the ticket will correspond with the title of the of the question formulated in the I4Trust help desk space, the description with the description, and one of the things to allow moving from one tool to the other is, as I mentioned before, the ability to have links to particular questions on and conversations within the I4Trust help desk space, which might be part of the description of the ticket. You will have there the ability to assign tickets to users, and you will be able to initiate the handling of that ticket when you are working on its response until it gets down. During the process, being able to add comments. This is something we recommend for its transition. And yeah, uh, uh, the workflow we have come with is, for the time being, very simple. We will see as we go and make progress whether this is particularly something we need to enrich further with more states and allow different the management of different situations. But we wanted to start simple, and as you see, the kind of a workflow is pretty simple. When a message, when a question is issued in the I4Trust help desk space, it will get into this to-do state, and you may assign that ticket, still keeping it in the to-do state, but is a way to simply somehow announce to the rest of the IHS, to announce to the I4Trust core partners, look, I'm planning to answer this question. And once you really start working on that question, or have written your first answer, you can transition that ticket into the in progress state and keep it there until you consider the question solved, which is the point in time at which you will typically transition that into the done state. Of course, there is ways to handle perhaps moving from to do to done when someone decides that the question was not meaningful and it has to be discarded, or you may revive and bring again to life a question that someone has decided to close a bit too early. That's something that is feasible. Let me go a bit now, moving from the presentation to the real system, to explain this a bit more dynamically. And actually, here you have this. If I just consider the help desk space as we have it now, we have just started. Of course, that means there are only few questions. So actually, there were two questions formulated, one by Manix, another one by Vincent Demotier, and those are the ones you can even yourself go to the I4Trust help desk space and, 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 and let's say go into the details. Let's just click on this particular one. Okay, yeah. You see, I was mentioning that there is a URL. This is, if I take from the navigator, this URL is the URL associated to this particular question. So you can always use this URL to refer to this conversation and bring it in a future stage and be able to come back to this question. If I go to Jira, I have created actually two tickets connected to the two questions that we have in the spaces. So if I go here and get back just to show you, these are the two questions that I have. This was simply an initial announcement by Rosa explaining a bit what was the goal of this space. Questions as such, only these two were here. So we have recreated that with tickets here. And if you go, you see there is the description is part of the title. There is the more elaborated description. And I placed the link of that conversation there because it's going to be useful. This, at this moment, is, as you see here, unassigned. And this is the way you will be able to see tickets that are created but not assigned to anyone. So if you want to take a particular ticket and say, okay, I will be the one that will try to answer this question, you can click here on the assign operation. So I will try to do myself. I assign here to myself just to show you how it works. I may add some comment. I think I can take care of this question. You will see two things now. The ticket is first now is assigned to me. Yeah, in this case, because I replicated them manually, I was the reporter, but in the future, you will see this is coming from an account associated to a system we will configure. And by means of assigning this to me, which is something you would be able to do, you will even see in the comments that you know, what I wrote has been annotated to the ticket. This is useful to you know, keep track of some comments that you may decide to incorporate in the history of the system. Still, the ticket is in the to-do state, so don't forget. You may simply, I mean, if a ticket is in a to-do status and is assigned, is essentially because that person is declaring, I'm plan to solve this question in the future. But I may want at certain point to start progress with the discussion and bring the actual answer. For this, I will click on this button, and is when the ticket, as you see, has changed the state and is now in progress. That is a condition we will be able to monitor. You will be able to perhaps come with responses and so on. You have to provide those responses in the I4Trust space. You know that actually people has been responded to. I guess you find out how to answer a given question. Those, for the time being, even though we will explore how this might be automated, let's say for the time being, these questions are separate, so you will be evolving, and the conversation on the I4Trust space in Jira. These conversations will not necessarily be stored unless you go and copy and paste. You will mostly use this for monitoring and transitions in the conversation. Like, for instance, if I consider that the question has been solved, at certain point I will simply click on done because I fix the question. Rather than fix, might be to say it's done, and yeah, I think the question got answered. Okay, and this will be done. If I reload this page, you will see. By the way, I reload that with the option of all issues, but I can always query for open issues. So therefore, you see now that ticket associated to the question which I transition to done state is not longer visible as an open issue. That is normal because, of course, you will not want to see all the tickets that had been open sometime in the past, only the ones that might be open and perhaps assigned to you. Okay. Coming back now to the presentation. Let's place this again in presentation mode. Why are we bringing Jira into place, and what is the reason why? Well, Jira is not only about managing the assignment and be able to keep track of that. It's also going to help us to create statistics and reports, and this way be able to assess how we are dealing with, how we are doing in front of the community in terms of support. And this is something that we will share with you periodically. We will meet together to discuss. And well, if things are growing wrong, try to find remedies for that, or well, understand how to improve or what to keep going and keep maintaining because it's working well. Of this, yes, if I come back to the screen, just to illustrate with an example, if of course we do not have enough statistics linked to tickets in iFortress, but if I go to some projects like the help on technical topics that we handle here internally in Fireware, within the Fireware community, just to show you a bit some of these reports. This one is particularly useful. It's showing us how we evolve closing tickets and as they are open, and how we evolve from then resolved and so on. For instance, he and I'm not hiding you anything. We were since 28th of April doing quite well, as you see, and then at certain point we had been progressing in closing tickets, but they have been increasing and at a bigger pace. So that might be things we want to detect, understand how to deal with, and yeah, in general, this allows you to very nicely track how we are doing overall with the multi-tier support. Coming back to the presentation, yes, there are other kind of reports, like for instance, very important could be the average age of any question that is being formulated. If we want to keep this looking good, will imply that we have to take care of questions being closed. Sometimes the issue is that the question has already been closed, but nobody has taken care of closing the corresponding ticket. So we will need to be a bit um, formal and methodical in this respect. But don't worry, we will also be there for support, because we are the first ones. We will be working with this tool. Some notes before moving further regarding Jira. All the DIHs that has been let's say certificated to be able to engage in support activities will be assigned a user account in the iTrust Jira project. Is iTrust and not i4Trust, because apparently we cannot have a number. Atlassian doesn't allow you to have a number in the name of a project within Jira. And you will have essentially three kind of users. Helpdesk, typically to be used as your front sort of helpdesk whenever you want to have people concretely assigned to tier one activities, which are this kind of let's say first filter to answer those questions that are more easily handled and that can be somehow systematically answered. And you will have typically a user account for a LEBD, or all the people that play that role of LEBD, and ambassadors as well. In some cases, we will discuss next. You may decide that people from tier 2 go directly. You don't have any person dedicated as a tier 1 helpdesk. That is fine. It's a bit options we offer to you. Unfortunately, we have not yet automated the creation of Jira tickets associated to a given request. So what we are going to ask you is that whenever a question is formulated in the i4Trust space, you do essentially this process. You create the ticket manually in Jira associated to that question, assign that ticket to yourself, and then answer in the conversation within the i4Trust space, designating and somehow telling the user, okay, thank you for your question. We will soon give you a response. And by the way, the ticket assigned to your question is this, has this code assigned. Jira creates a code for each ticket that is created that has the name of the project and then a number. You saw that in the examples. I will show this in the slides. You see here in the upper left corner, you have these codes, and you see you have these codes also in the main window where you see the details of a given ticket. So we will ask you to do this a bit manually, reporting to the user. Hopefully, this is not going to be too much a burden initially, because at the beginning we do not expect too much traffic. But I want to share with you that soon we will be automating this, let's say, first part of the process. Why? Because the Funding Box platform brings you APIs, brings you tools that allows to implement mechanisms, and this is something on which we are working now, that will allow to essentially, whenever someone formulates a question on the i4Trust space, to be able to create automatically a ticket that will not be, of course, assigned at that moment. So therefore, when we have this ready and someone formulates a question, you will know that there will be a ticket in the Jira system, so you can go there directly and discover that ticket. And if you wanted to be the one that answers that ticket, be able to assign it to yourself. Um, and what we also expect is that even this message telling the user that someone is going to answer him soon, and what is the code of their ticket, is something that we also plan to um, um, develop, and so that it's automated. With this, we will give hopefully a good impression from a professional manner, and we will be able to keep track of all the processes and how the different questions get answered, and the flow through the different tiers is managed. We have covered so far tier one, uh, and how when a given user has formulated a question, this would create a Jira ticket. At the beginning, as I said, we have to deal with this manually. This is something, let's say, for the time being, we from i4Trust core partners will take care of creating those tickets and respond to the user saying, look, thank you for your question. This is the ticket assigned to you. And once you see that message in the i4Trust space, is when you are invited to go and say, okay, I want to take care of that ticket. I will go to Jira, assign it to me, and start the conversation in the i4Trust space. Okay. But so therefore, since it's going to be manually a bit, and based on manual supervision from i4Trust core partners, it may be a bit slow at the beginning, but as I said, at certain point in time, will be automated, and this should, let's say, come relatively fast. Tier 2 is essentially the tier where the ambassadors and LEBs from your DIHs will be involved. And as I mentioned before, you may also have some other people within the DIH that take care of first level assessments of the questions to get an answer in a systematic manner. But you may decide, okay, here I am with my labs and ambassadors, and I can, let's say, assign the tickets to myself in tier 2. People at tier 2 are, in that sense, since I explained before, they will have users in the Jira system, and they will be able to do these self-assignments of requests. Still, we hope through the trainings that we have run during these weeks, you will be able to answer many of the questions actually. But if not, don't worry. This is the way, the reason why there is this multi-tier support. You will be able to assign the ticket to users that we will report to you what they are, that will provide the tier 3 support. Mhm. We will be monitoring, nevertheless, when a given ticket is staying too long assigned to you, either assigned to your tier 1, either assigned to ambassadors or LEBs in tier 2 of your organization, because we cannot leave them staying, let's say, forever. So when we detect this is happening, and the kind of reports I was mentioning to you before will help us to find out this is happening, then we will be able to um, um, act upon that ticket, corresponding ticket, perhaps assign it to another DIH or to ourselves, make it progress anyway in some way. Of course, we will be also monitoring that given SME or organization may signal that they are not satisfied with the answer they are getting, and if in that case, and we are looking how to implement mechanisms to get notice about that, we will um, act also accordingly. Well, last but not least, and to complete the picture, we have the tier 3. Tier 3 is where a number of I4Trust core partner experts are involved. And we, as I mentioned before, will be assigning ourselves tickets that we watch and have found that are staying without further progress for too long time, or simply you have assigned existing tickets to us because you were reaching a point at which, with your knowledge and training, you are not able to further progress. For you to know, depending on the questions, particularly technical questions, there might be some of these questions we may believe it's worth to bring on databases we have been building, particularly in connection with firewall technologies, like as I mentioned to you, Stack Overflow. So perhaps the question is a quite curated question still to be solved, or a question that whose solution is something which is going to be particularly useful for the wider community of developers or technical people. In that case, what we typically do, just for you to know, is that we ask that particular user to formulate the question on Stack Overflow. You have the link on Stack Overflow to the dedicated um, pages that focus on questions about firewall components that are tagged in that sense. And yeah, is how we may end up handling some of the solutions to some of the questions. Of course, before closing the ticket, in those cases, one of the elements that we will bring in the history of that ticket, and also in the conversation within the I4Trust space, is the link to the concrete question on Stack Overflow, where the problem was answered. And well, that was all. As I said, and probably if you are experienced or you have been involved in help desk activities involving multi-tier support, what I have explained is not something that will sound very unfamiliar to you. So we are simply implementing here enough agile process, but well-structured process to be able to monitor how questions get solved and be able to make sure that all questions are properly solved. And yeah, a final slide to give a bit of a summary, and now we can um, uh, go and try to answer uh, more concrete questions that you may have. But as a bit of a summary of this session, first, highlight once again, support is an activity that is really a great opportunity to not just only connect to potential iFor Trust users, but engage with them. It's something quite interesting from a psychological perspective, but there has been already studies where it had been found that sometimes you engage better a given user if that user has a problem and then you solve it quite effectively than if that user has never had a problem. And it's an interesting aspect about support that we have to bear in mind and take advantage of. It is a collaborative effort. In that sense, we need your help. We need the help of the IHS to grow the community. Is the You are instrumental looking for scalability to and be able to scale the community. But of course, we are there, the I4 Trust core partners, to help you. And if at any point you don't know how to deal with anything, just transfer to us. We will take care. This way, we will all be learning, and next time we will do better. The connection of I4 Trust held a space on the I4 Trust community with a ticketing system like Jira, I think is important. It will ensure proper management of the request for help coming from different users. Is also a very objective manner to show not only to ourselves but to the whole community how support is working. I remember the first years in Fiverr where we didn't, at the very beginning, put in place a Jira system to handle requests for support. You will always face people who may want to blame on you for whatever reason, and sometimes not doing this in a very objective manner. And placing a tool like this allows you to take care of these um, controversial situations. You can bring in front of the community objective numbers, figures, questions that have been formulated, and track it, how long it took to get them answered and everything. And this way is not a matter of impressions, it's a matter of facts that you can bring on the table to describe how you are trying to bring support to the community. And this is something that the community at the very end of the day really value. Because it's also how you are offering transparency about the process, and you may have some issues. You may not have enough resources. There might be points in time where you are facing concrete problems, but that is okay. People understand this if you handle this with proper transparency and you keep them informed using the right tools. And that is all. Thank you. I believe this presentation has been enough informative. This, of course, is something we will learn and improve by doing. There is no other way. So do not expect everything will be perfect at the very beginning. As one of the things I have already mentioned is that there are certain automations that are still to be developed, but we will also evolve over time, take lessons learned and improve. For instance, we may decide to change the workflow a little bit if we find it's better, and your feedback is more than welcome. So you are part of this story. So if you find that I don't know, you need some new field in the tickets we have created in Jira, if you think that we should incorporate a new state in the workflow, whatever, feel free to come up with the feedback, and we will try to implement those proposals to, well, first of all, discuss them within the community, but if everyone, or if we have reached enough level of consensus, then we will work hard to get it implemented. So that's all, and yeah, perhaps what we can do is to devote rest of the session to answer questions you may have. I will stop sharing my screen because I think we do not need this now. And happy to answer questions you may want to formulate, if there is any.
Thank you, Juanjo. So far, we haven't received any questions, but we'll see if anything comes in. I think it was quite clear and quite a good system that you've set up, basically. And while we get any questions in, I would like to share with the attendees the second survey on Train the Trainers, and it would be fantastic if you could answer it and share your feedback about the program with us, since it's just about continuous improvement, right? I've just shared the link in the chat, and I will also post it later on Spaces together with the recording of the session now. For the questions, please feel free to write them on the chat or raise your hand and we can hand you the mic.
Okay, if there are no questions, in any case, we have, I want to remind you, the IFORT Trust DIH working group space within the community. You can also formulate there some questions that may come to your mind as you also check the slides that we will, of course, share as we have done with the other sessions. And yeah, it's about keeping it working, and well, we will be fine-tuning the process over time. One question I want to also remind people is there might be questions you may have that might not be just useful for this private circle of DIS's part of the Trust community, the DIS working group. In those cases, and I believe some of you have already done, actually the two examples I mentioned are good examples of that. We invite you to formulate questions that might, let's say, be useful for the larger community to formulate them directly in the Trust help desk space. And this way, when we answer them, it will they will get answer for the whole community.
Thank you, Juanjo. I would like to thank everybody who has joined us today and for the different sessions of trained trainers. And with that, I will, if you want to add anything, Juanjo, if not, I'll end the session.
No, I think it's all right. And thank you everyone for attending the session, and yeah, eager to start working with you and bringing support to the whole community of Trust. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you.